Coach Sean, the Rip Grandpa. Inside this video, I'm going to share the exact same carb cycling plan I personally use to stay lean 365 days of the year. This is also the same framework that my private clients pay me $4,000 to $10,000 to customize for them. And I'm going to give it to you today 100% free. I just ask that if you get something out of this video to like it and share it and drop a comment if you have feedback or questions. So before I dive in and show you how I use Carb Down, Carb Deplete, and Carb Up Days to stay lean year round, why do I choose carb cycling? Well, the main reason is adherence, because what's the best diet to follow is one that you can stick to. And I always say, what's the first three letters of the word diet? When you drop the T, die. And if you look at multiple studies across the board, on average, there's a 94% chance that if you follow a low carb diet, you're gonna regain all or more of the weight back. This is the research, multiple studies across the board now, meta-analysis all show this. And the reason why is adherence. And with carb cycling, you don't eliminate any foods or food groups. And there's no reason to, unless you have some type of allergy or sensitivity. The second reason I love carb cycling is hormones. And I'm gonna talk more about that in a second, but low carb diets themselves are a recipe for disaster ongoing long-term if you don't monitor your hormones through blood work and other various methods like carb cycling itself. And number three is I just feel better personally on a carb cycling diet. And I'm not saying you can't get results from a low carb diet. I'm just saying you're probably gonna gain it all or more back. So I follow a plan. I've been using this for 20 years, various versions of it, because I have better energy, I have better performance, I have better strength, because glucose, in my opinion, is a much better anaerobic fuel. It produces more ATP through anaerobic glycolysis. So it's just, to me, carb cycling is superior to other diets because I can adhere to it, and it caters to my social life. And I'm gonna share that with you in a second, because you get to enjoy lots of carbs every weekend. So the first day that I follow is on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, called the Carb Down Day. And this is a middle of the road carb day. It's not low, but it's not high. You're gonna get 100 grams of total impact carbs. So take the total amount of carbs that you eat for a meal or for that day, subtract the fiber grams, that's your impact carbs. You wanna be approximately around 100 grams, and I have one starch and I have one fruit. Now, there's three different times to consider eating the starch or the fruit. And no matter what I share with you inside this video for mechanisms like Carb Down, Deplete, and Carb Up, these are all mechanisms. If you don't have adequate protein, you don't have a deficit in place at least 5 days of the week, you're not getting adequate water or sleep, then none of what I teach you in this video is gonna matter. So I just want to prerequisite, like, you got to have protein in every single meal. But we're talking about carbs and carb cycling. But if you're exercising, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, half your body weight in ounces of water, 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single night, have to be in place first. So there's three different times to consider eating the starch and the fruit. And I'll share what I do in a second, but a good time is dinner time, especially if you struggle sleeping. So if you have insomnia issues, research shows that people who eat carbs at dinner time improve their sleep quality. And the reason this happens is because when you eat carbs in that dinner meal, you suppress cortisol. This allows the brain to release more serotonin and melatonin. A better time is pre-workout, because again, it gives you more energy and performance. And then the best time is post-workout. So always remember, there's a lot of debate about the magic window and how everything's a 24-hour cycle, but the research does show there's that 2-hour window in the post-workout phase after high-intensity weight training or high-intensity cardio, where your body's ability to resynthesize glycogen is greatly enhanced. At that 2-hour mark, the research shows that it starts declining like up to 50% right away. So within that 2-hour window is by far the best time to consume those carbs. Also, research shows that when you combine those carbs with protein in that post-workout window, the thermic effect, or the TEF, thermic effect of food, of those carbohydrates can be up to 73% higher in that 2-hour window. Now, the hormonal and metabolic effect that we're trying to create here is that we're getting enough carbs to help stimulate muscle tissue and grow muscle, but we're still keeping our body in a slight deficit to burn fat. So this is a burn and build day, or what I call a body recomp day. So the whole reason that I like to have my starch and my fruit in the post-workout window on Mondays is because I carb load with Carb Up Days on the weekend. And so I know I have all this extra energy stored inside my muscle and liver tissue from all the carbs that I've eaten. And because I've been in a slight surplus on the weekend on purpose because of the Carb Up Days, I also am just not hungry on Mondays. So it's a very easy day for me to fast. So I typically will fast 16 to 18 hours. I'll go into the workout in a fasted state. I'll have 3 to 4 grams of HMB, which is the equivalent of 10 to 12 grams of leucine in that fasted training session because that's the only amino acid proven to stop muscle loss. And then I'll have the starch in the fruit, a fist-sized serving, in the post-workout window. Now, on Wednesdays and Fridays, I have a piece of fruit and a protein shake about 60 to 90 minutes before my weight training session, and then I save the starch for the post-workout window. And then if I'm struggling with insomnia or I have a work project where I'm freaking out and not sleeping well, I will consider pushing that starch to dinner time to help me sleep as well. So you have all three of those options, and at the end of the day, all of them will work. So that's an introduction to the carb down day. Now, carb deplete days are the fat burning days where we're gonna stay in more of an aggressive deficit. These are not keto days. This is really super high protein days. And I do these on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then I pick a Saturday or a Sunday to do a deplete day when I'm in a cutting phase. If I'm not in a cutting phase, I just go ahead and have 2 carb up days on the weekend. And on these days, I do some type of cardio or HIIT, and then I have 0 starches on these days and only 50 grams of impact carbs. And then as long as I do a cardio or HIIT workout, I allow myself to have 1 serving, a fist-sized serving of berries, cherries, or a kiwi, typically in the post-workout window, but pre or post or even for dessert after dinner is fine because they're super low carb and super low glycemic. And that's your fat burning days with the extreme deficit. And then lastly, by far my favorite day is the carb up day on the weekends because of course you get 2 starches and you get 2 fruits and you get a cheat meal with a dessert. Now, I follow a couple strategies on this weekend to ensure that I'm not taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps backward. Now, like I mentioned earlier, when I'm on a cutting cycle, I make one of these days on the weekends a deplete day because I want to be in an aggressive deficit one more day of the week because I'm cutting fat. When I'm in maintenance mode, which I am in the majority of the year, I make both these days a carb up day. Now, one day is a clean carb up day where I have 2 clean starches and 2 clean fruits. And the other day, I have 2 clean fruits, starch, and a cheat meal with a dessert, okay? Now, it's super important. There is a metabolic and hormonal effect that takes place here because during the week, you've been in a deficit on your carb down and deplete days. And so I know during the week when I follow these days that I'm down regulating my thyroid and leptin hormones, which is slowing down my metabolic rate. And in the science world, this is called metabolic adaptation or metabolic slowdown. Well, most people don't know that thyroid hormones themselves are a glycoprotein. Glyco means glucose, so your body needs glucose to convert T4 to T3, the active form of thyroid hormones your body can utilize. And of course, thyroid hormones communicate with leptin hormones, and they help regulate your body weight and help control the speed of your metabolism. So when you have these starches and these fruits on the weekends, you're boosting back up these hormones, increasing your metabolic rate, giving you a reward and a hormonal reset. Now, always remember the good, better, best carb timing when you have these meals, and then make one day clean is what I do, and then I have that cheat meal. Now, it's important before I close out this video because you can sabotage your success with this cheat meal. Rule number 1 that I follow is I don't ever binge or stuff. I enjoy myself, I fill up, but I don't binge or stuff. That's a recipe for disaster. Number 2, I time my alcohol strategically because research shows that if you have a bunch of cocktails before or after these higher carb meals, you negate your body's ability to replenish glycogen in muscle and liver tissue because your body automatically switches gears when alcohol enters your system and it uses acetate from alcohol as a fuel source first. So it's super important that you time your alcohol properly. And my go-to philosophy is that I always try to get 1 or 2 of these higher carb meals in earlier in the day. And then later in the day when I want to enjoy my cocktails, I just do it guilt-free. So I want to make sure the hormonal and the glycogen replenishing effect is not being hindered by alcohol intake. So I try to wait about 2 hours after a high carb meal or a cheat meal before I drink and indulge. But at the very least, have 1 or 2 of these meals earlier in the day before you start drinking. And this will ensure that you can still enjoy yourself and have a social life while you can still cut belly fat. So there you have it. That's a full introduction to my RG carb cycling philosophy. I fleshed this out in my Rip Grandpa app. And you can actually try that app for $1 at the link below. Now, this is also the same philosophy, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I customize for my high ticket coaching clients. So executives, entrepreneurs, successful business owners. And of course, that's way more expensive because you're working one-on-one with me and you're getting a very high touch, high level VIP concierge service. But if you wanted to hop on a call and talk about that and you're serious, there's a link below in the description. And of course, if you got something out of this, share the love, please. Like it and share it and drop a comment if you have any questions that I overlooked for you. And then time is our most precious commodity. I never take for granted when people take time to watch my videos. So thanks for watching this and keep going strong.